Jay Cutler, Phil Heath, and Regan Grimes guest pose over the weekend. We've got Mr. Olympia competitor updates, and will PJ Braun be out of jail very soon? What's up, Desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back for another bodybuilding news video, and we're going to kick this one off with Brett the Butcher Wilkin, who posted this up just a couple of days ago, looking awesome in his pro debut Mr. Olympia prep. We're looking at about 14 weeks out here, and the abs, you can see, famously just chiseled already, which is absolutely insane because, I mean, being 14 weeks out, and you can see the rest of his physique too. The rest of his physique isn't there yet, which it really shouldn't be at 14 weeks out in terms of conditioning, but he is bringing a lot more thickness than I think he's brought in the past. We know his conditioning, at least at the last contest, was insane. He placed second just a few years ago to Hunter Labrada at that Chicago Pro, and I think he's bringing the heat this time. I think he's going to be bigger than he was in his last contest, which I think that he needs to do to place, potentially in a top 10 at a Mr. Olympia with the quality lineup that it has right now. And so far, so good for Brett Wilkin in this Mr. Olympia prep. Some of it will come down to how his legs are looking as well. And if his legs are looking anywhere like as thick as they did when he's out here in Australia and I got to see him, and I'm assuming they're going to be a little bit bigger as well, as he was not fully blown at that stage, I'm very excited for Brett Wilkin's Olympia debut. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And on to another guy doing that Mr. Olympia in 2023 and a contender for the title here in Nick Walker, who is looking absolutely enormous, as Nick does look in most of his updates. And his updates are very transparent as well. He poses in posing trunks pretty much all the time. We get to see a few other shots here and there. He's training here in that Torture gym out there in Las Vegas, which he said he really likes. It's got that new tech equipment in there. We know Mil Sarchev trains clients out of there, like Regan Grimes and whatnot. And looking just absolutely insane. The waist is looking tighter and tighter, whether that's just a byproduct of him getting leaner and then, a little bit of fat coming off the midsection, or he's really focusing on that, doing his vacuums as he comes into his Mr. Olympia prep. I'm not too sure, but Nick is looking really, really good here. I think he's only going to improve as well. And Guy Sistinino said on a recent podcast, on the Menace podcast, that Nick is hoping to be about 10 pounds bigger this year. I assume 10 pounds bigger than that Arnold Classic, where he placed second to Samson Dowder. And if he's able to do that and bring comparable conditioning, there's no reason why Nick Walker cannot win the 2023 Mr. Olympia. No doubt it will be hard, as there's many contenders, but he's one of those contenders. Now we're going to a guy who's actually competing in the amateur Mr. Olympia in Elliot Dermond, who is looking absolutely insane. I've dubbed him as sort of the best amateur in the world. If he's not the best amateur in the world, he's definitely one of the top three, because he is looking insane 14 weeks out at that amateur Olympia, where I'm assuming he's going to turn pro, because he is absolutely enormous. Conditioning's already pretty damn good. The waist is coming in even more. He's got a very different physique, very bubbly in terms of the muscle. The legs are huge, huge chest. Midsection is pretty small, pretty cinched, huge arms, big delts. The only question on his physique is the back, where he just doesn't have as big of a structure, but there is a lot of lat thickness, as you guys can see in that update there. So it's more just when he turns to the back, he might sort of have a hard time in the pro ranks. But there's plenty of pros out there with not as good backs that still do really, really well. And he's just absolutely packed from every other angle. So very excited to see Elliot Dermond. And guys, let me know in the comments, do you think he's the best amateur on the planet today? On to our next update, and that comes from Blessing Awardaboo, who now is about 4 to 5 weeks out of that Italian show. He's bypassed the Tampa Pro. He's bypassed the Texas Pro. And probably a wise move, to be honest, but he's going to have some stiff competition over there at that Italy show, and I'm assuming probably the European Championships as well. But he is looking much improved in terms of conditioning already, working with Cameron Cheek, who obviously is a pretty decent prep coach. He's actually got pretty high praise among podcasts that I've actually listened to as well. People are talking him up. He's a Matt Jansen guy. I don't know if he trains people sort of under Matt Jansen in that Camp Jansen thing, but he's looking pretty damn good and very, very improved. So I'm looking forward to seeing Blessing's improvements from that Chicago Pro, which we just saw a couple of weeks ago, where he placed, I think it was 5th in that lineup. Now onto a guy that's doing that Texas Pro and making his pro debut in Jonathan Withers, who probably has, if not the best, some of the best legs on the planet today. His quads are absolutely insane. They look cartoonish. The conditioning seems to be there. Does he need to bring his upper body up still? Yes, he does, but he has brought it up from when he actually turned pro. The conditioning seems better than when he turned pro, and I'm excited for this pro debut. When you see him here in the gym lifting up his shorts, it just looks almost photoshopped, or video shopped, I suppose you'd say in this case. They just look so pumped. Surely he's training legs there. You can see the leg press in the background. There is just so much blood in those legs and obviously so much muscle. So looking forward to seeing Quadzilla, as he probably should be called, on stage in his pro debut. And let me know how you think he can do, because there's a few other guys outside of that crazy top 3 competing in that Texas Pro too. So it should be a great show. And we'll be covering it all here on Desktop Bodybuilding. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell button. Now, something I loved seeing over the weekend was Jay Cutler posing on stage, ripping off his shirt, and also getting a bit of a reveal from Regan Grimes, but also Phil Heath as well. So let's have a look at it with Jay Cutler walking out on stage, ripping his shirt off, and looking absolutely crazy at 50 years of age. We all know that he did that Fit for 50 challenge, and you can see the results. He looks really, really good. Like, the delts haven't come back probably the way Jay wanted to, and I'm sure he'd want to look just as good as Regan Grimes on stage, but that's not realistic at his age and 50 years of age. I mean, people were saying actually in the comments, someone said, oh, well, look at Dexter Jackson at 50. He was a competitive bodybuilder. Jay is not a competitive bodybuilder anymore, and most guys aren't Dexter Jackson. And while he was obviously a Mr. Olympia, if I was walking around like that at 50, I would be absolutely stoked. So he looks great. And Regan Grimes in that update as well looks really, really good. And you can see Phil and Jay on stage together. Jay shows a quad and then Phil shows a quad, and his quads are still looking nice and round. There's no deterioration of Phil's quads whatsoever. They look really good, and Phil looks really healthy as well, which is a great sign. And I think Phil's getting his body healthy. He's doing his cold plunges and doing his lives, and he's mentioned the potential of a comeback, potentially not at the Mr. Olympia. So I can see this happening for Phil Heath. I don't think that he's a guy that would stay big. I mean, he's probably going to stay at a reasonable size regardless, because Phil Heath has crazy genetics. And I don't think it takes Phil too much to keep this level of muscularity on his physique. But I think that Phil's maybe going to gear up, get really big, and whether we see him step on stage once again, I think we're going to see a big Phil Heath on stage at some point. And you can see him training here in the gym, looking pretty damn impressive for a guy that has reportedly retired, at least according to many people online. But I don't think Phil is. I think Phil is going to make a comeback. I don't think he'll be on the Mr. Olympia stage, whether it's an Arnold Classic stage, whether it's another smaller show that he jumps into, and then maybe there's a bigger show coming up. Maybe The Rock puts on a show and they do that Athleticon at some point. I'd love to see it. Who knows if that will actually ever happen. But I mean, I know everyone in the bodybuilding industry would love to see that, and an injection of money for these guys to have more incentive to get up on stage and compete more regularly. I would absolutely love to see it. And it was really cool over the weekend to see Jay actually honored on stage. They had a bit of a sign there. It says 50 and Jay on there, and they actually had a cake for him as well. So Jay deserves all this respect and all this love, and shout out to Jay Cutler, and a big happy birthday from myself and from the entire industry, because I think everyone would love to send a massive happy birthday out there to Jay Cutler, because he's really an icon of the sport, and he's keeping a lot of this alive, and he's really encouraging a lot of people to get into fitness, get on stage, and he's become a real ambassador for bodybuilding, which I love to see. Now let's talk about that man, Regan Grimes. We have some posing updates that are not at this guest posing. You can see him posing here literally in the smallest corridor ever, and he's filling out that corridor. Back looks absolutely awesome, and we know Regan has a great back, so that's really no surprise to me that his back is looking good at about 5 weeks out of that. I believe he's doing the Italy show. If not, he's doing that European Pro Championships, which I'm very, very excited to see. And I think Regan's looking better than ever. I think this is the best he's ever looked, because we're seeing more transparent updates. We used to see a lot that were just in this same bedroom all the time, where he always looked pretty damn good and they were just photos. We're seeing a lot more now, and you can see the detail through the hamstrings. There's a little bit coming through on the glutes there, and he looks right on track to hit this comp really well. And when you see him from the front, which I'm pretty damn impressed with, once he poses and turns his wrists a little bit more, we're seeing a little bit more peak to that bicep, which I always wanted to see, because sometimes his biceps looked a little bit watery, a little bit flat. Seems like they're peaking up a little bit more right now, so he's put the work in on that. And the front lat spread and all these other shots is looking really, really good. So shout out to Regan Grimes. I think he's going to do very well this year. And on to our last part of the video. Now, Guy Sistinino was on the Menace podcast today with Dennis James, Mila Sarchev, and Chris Cormier. And he had a bit of an update on PJ Braun, who obviously went to jail 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago now, at the same time as Aaron Singerman. They got the same sentence, but Aaron Singerman got out far in advance. Now, people have speculated, is it because Aaron cooperated? All that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to speculate here, but PJ Braun is still in jail and Aaron Singerman is out. So here's a bit of an update from Guy Sistinino and when PJ may potentially get out of jail.
And then I got to go to Florida for Blackstone because, PJ's still away, hoping to get out in January, but I'm still doing a little bit more than I can.
How's he doing? How's he feeling?
He's good, man. He's it's hard working out in there. He does cardio twice a day. He works out with what he can. There's not a lot of weights. His job is to clean the common area. He said he's got a very different perspective on life and he's excited to get out. And he's like, a lot of things are going to change when I come out. And, it's sad to see, I'm not going to get into the political side of things, but it's sad to see that he's still in for the same crime and Aaron's out. That's kind of, bothers him a little bit, when two people do the same thing and one gets out.
I've got to imagine that's got to bother you. Obviously, you both did the same thing. He's still in. Aaron's out living his life. And, I mean, while what PJ and Aaron did is not acceptable, they're serving their time. And once he gets out, hopefully, I'm sure he will be welcomed back into this industry. And, there's many people that have done wrong things in bodybuilding. And hopefully, obviously, there's lessons learned from both guys and he's able to move on with his life. But here's an update on when he potentially may be getting out.
And one's still in.
Yeah, how much longer does he have?
So from what I was told, he should be getting out in January, hopefully, if all goes according to plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see, and I'll keep you guys updated on whether PJ is getting out in January. So guys, if you want to keep updated on all this bodybuilding news, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, smash that like button if you did enjoy this one, and subscribe and hit that notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up from myself, Xavier Wills at Desktop Bodybuilding. So that's it for me, guys. I'm Xavier Wills. This is Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are out.